the smut. They imagined that they did much good to the gardens and caused the onions to grow large. Children ran about the fields, torch in hand, to make the land more fertile." At Vergès, a village between the Jura and the Combe d'Ain, the torches at this season were kindled on the top of a mountain, and the bearers went to every house in the village, demanding roasted peas and obliging all couples who had been married within the year to dance. In Berry, a district of central France, it appears that bonfires are not lighted on this day, but when the sun has set, the whole population of the villages, armed with blazing torches of straw, disperse over the country and scour the fields, the vineyards, and the orchards. Seen from afar, the multitude of moving lights twinkling in the darkness appear like will-o'-the-wisps chasing each other across the plains, along the hillsides, and down the valleys. When the men wave their flambeaux about the branches of the fruit trees, the women and children tie bands of wheaten straw round the tree trunks. The effect of the ceremony is supposed to be to avert the various plagues from which the fruits of the earth are apt to suffer, and the bands of straw fastened round the stems of the trees are believed to render them fruitful. In Germany, Austria, and Switzerland, at the same season similar customs have prevailed. Thus, in the Eifel Mountains, Rhenish Prussia, on the first Sunday in Lent, young people used to collect straw and brushwood from house to house. These they carried to an eminence and piled up round a tall, slim beech tree, to which a piece of wood was fastened at right angles to form a cross. The structure was known as the hut or castle. Fire was set to it, and the young people marched round the blazing castle bareheaded, each carrying a lighted torch and praying aloud. Sometimes a straw man was burnt in the hut. People observed the direction in which the smoke blew from the fire. If it blew towards the cornfields, it was a sign that the harvest would be abundant. On the same day, in some parts of the Eifel, a great wheel was made of straw and dragged by 3 horses to the top of the hill. Thither the village boys marched at nightfall, set fire to the wheel, and sent it rolling down the slope. At Oberstattfeld, the wheel had to be provided by the young man who was last married. About Echternach in Luxembourg, the same ceremony is called burning the witch. At Vorarlberg in the Tyrol, on the first Sunday in Lent, a slender young fir tree is surrounded by a pile of straw and firewood. To the top of the tree is fastened a human figure called the witch, made of old clothes and stuffed with gunpowder. At night the whole is set on fire, and boys and girls dance round it, swinging torches and singing rhymes in which the words "corn in the winnowing basket, the plough in the earth" may be distinguished. In Swabia, on the first Sunday in Lent, a figure called the witch or the old wife or winter's grandmother is made up of clothes and fastened to a pole. This is stuck in the middle of a pile of wood to which fire is applied. While the witch is burning, the young people throw blazing discs into the air. The discs are thin round pieces of wood, a few inches in diameter, with notched edges to imitate the rays of the sun or stars. They have a hole in the middle, by which they are attached to the end of a wand. Before the disc is thrown, it is set on fire, the wand is swung to and fro, and the impetus thus communicated to the disc is augmented by dashing the rod sharply against a sloping board. The burning disc is thus thrown off, and mounting high into the air, describes a long fiery curve before it reaches the ground. The charred embers of the burned witch and discs are taken home and planted in the flax field the same night, in the belief that they will keep vermin from the fields. In the Rhone Mountains, situated on the borders of Hesse and Bavaria, the people used to march to the top of a hill or eminence on the first Sunday in Lent. Children and lads carried torches, brooms daubed with tar, and poles swathed in straw. A wheel wrapped in combustibles was kindled and rolled down the hill, and the young people rushed about the fields with their burning torches and brooms, till at last they flung them in a heap, and standing round them, struck up a hymn or a popular song. The object of running about the fields with the blazing torches was to drive away the wicked sower, or it was done in honour of the Virgin, that she might preserve the fruits of the earth throughout the year and bless them. In neighbouring villages of Hesse, between the Rhone and the Vogel mountains, it was thought that wherever the burning wheels roll, the fields will be safe from hail and storm. In Switzerland also, it is or used to be customary to kindle bonfires on high places in the evening of the first Sunday in Lent, and the day is therefore popularly known as Spark Sunday. The custom prevailed, for example, throughout the canton of Lucerne. Boys went about from house to house, begging for wood and straw, then piled the fuel on a conspicuous mountain or hill round about a pole, which bore a straw effigy called the witch. At nightfall the pile was set on fire, and the young folks danced wildly round it, some of them cracking whips or ringing bells, and when the fire burned low enough they leaped over it. This was called burning the witch. In some parts of the canton also they used to wrap old wheels in straw and thorns, put a light to them, and send them rolling and blazing downhill. The more bonfires could be seen sparkling and flaring in the darkness, the more fruitful was the year expected to be, and the higher the dancers leapt beside or over the fire, the higher, it was thought, would grow the flax. In some districts it was the last married man or woman who must kindle the bonfire. It hardly seems possible to separate from these bonfires, kindled on the first Sunday in Lent, the fires in which, about the same season, the effigy called Death is burned as part of the ceremony of carrying out death. We have seen that at Schwackendorf in Austrian Silesia, on the morning of Rupert's Day, a straw man dressed in a fur coat and a fur cap is laid in a hole outside the village and there burned, and that while it is blazing every one seeks to snatch a fragment of it, which he fastens to a branch of the highest tree in his garden or buries in his field, believing that this will make the crops grow better. The ceremony is known as the burying of the dead. Even when the straw man is not designated as Death, the meaning of the observance is probably the same, for the name Death, as I have tried to show, does not express the original intention of the ceremony. At Cobern in the Eifel Mountains, the lads make up a straw man on Shrove Tuesday. The effigy is formally tried and accused of having perpetrated all the thefts that have been committed in the neighbourhood throughout the year. Being condemned to death, the straw man is led through the village, shot, and burned upon a pyre. They dance round the blazing pile, and the last bride must leap over it. In Oldenburg, on the evening of Shrove Tuesday, people used to make long bundles of straw, which they set on fire, and then ran about the fields waving them, shrieking and singing wild songs. Finally, they burned a straw man on the field. In the district of Düsseldorf, the straw man burned on Shrove Tuesday was made of an unthreshed sheaf of corn. On the first Monday after the spring equinox, the urchins of Zurich drag a straw man on a little cart through the streets, while at the same time the girls carry about a May tree. When vespers ring, the straw man is burned. In the district of Aachen, on Ash Wednesday, a man used to be encased in peas straw and taken to an appointed place. Here he slipped quietly out of his straw casing, which was then burned, the children thinking that it was the man who was being burned. In the Val d'Aledro, or Tyrol, on the last day of the carnival, a figure is made up of straw and brushwood and then burned. The figure is called the Old Woman, and the ceremony burning the old woman. Section 3. The Easter Fires. Another occasion on which these fire festivals are held is Easter Eve, the Saturday before Easter Sunday. On that day it has been customary in Catholic countries to extinguish all the lights in the churches, and then to make a new